Just weeks before Christmas in 2023, a woman was seen stealing packages off the front porches of numerous homes in Gloucester Township, New Jersey. When one resident confronted the suspect, she allegedly claimed to be a delivery driver who had mistakenly dropped the package off at the wrong address. But the surveillance footage that was captured at multiple residences spoke for itself, making it clear that the community had a serial thief on its hands. Later identified as 31-year-old Ebony Gomez of Jacksonville, Florida, the accused porch pirate fled in the middle of a traffic stop after being pulled over for having unrestrained children in her car. Police located her a short while later, but she fled once again, striking and injuring an officer as she sped off in her vehicle. U.S. Marshals apprehended Gomez in nearby Monroe Township a few days later. She was charged with a laundry list of crimes including eluding, child endangerment, aggravated assault against law enforcement, and theft of movable property. According to the most recent available updates from shortly after Gomez's arrest, she was being held at the Camden County Jail. Number 20. Gavin Schaffer and Audrey French. During the summer of 2023, a young pair of partners in crime were seen swiping packages off doorsteps in and around Wichita, Kansas, identified by police as 19-year-old Gavin Schaffer and 18-year-old Audrey French. The suspects were apprehended in early August following a joint investigation between the Wichita and Mays police departments. Schaffer and French were each charged with aggravated burglary and 2 counts of theft. Records show that Schaffer was arrested in early 2024 for violating probation, indicating that he managed to avoid prison time for the package thefts. He remains behind bars on the theft, burglary, and probation violation charges, along with additional counts for failing to appear in court, drug possession, contempt of court, and a paraphernalia charge. French is not currently in custody, which suggests that she squared away the package theft case and has managed to stay out of trouble since then. Number 19. Barbara Parker. In 2017, a family friend noticed that money was disappearing from a 93-year-old woman's home in Liverpool, England. Suspicious that someone was stealing the senior citizen's cash, the friend bought a clock with a hidden camera and placed it inside the senior citizen's home. It wasn't long before the camera captured footage of the elderly woman's hairdresser, Barbara Parker, reaching into her purse when she wasn't looking and taking $50. In the video, Parker could be seen rummaging through the victim's handbag and clenching the wad of money between her teeth before slipping it into her own purse. The victim was nearby, but she was oblivious to the theft that was going on in plain sight, most likely due to her age and because she trusted Parker. Parker had been cutting and styling the victim's hair for 6 years. The woman's friends and family were shocked to discover that she was responsible for the missing money. Speaking with the Liverpool Echo, the family friend who set up the camera said that the victim was shaken after learning about the theft. Within a few days of being released to the public, the disturbing video garnered upwards of 3 million views. By then, the family was focused on putting the traumatic incident behind them and moving on with their lives. In the meantime, Parker was convicted of theft, fined, and ordered to perform 100 hours of community service. Number 18. Nina Star Parisis. A Florida woman was having a bad enough day in September 2021 when she got a flat tire along Interstate 95 in Palm Springs and had to get her car repaired on short notice. After the work was finished, she went to retrieve something from the passenger side of the vehicle and was violently accosted by a female thief who yanked the woman's $5,000 Chanel purse off her shoulder. Onlookers rushed outside to snap photos of the suspect's vehicle as the victim was thrown into a bench and pulled to the ground. Later identified as 19-year-old Nina Star Parisis, the accused thief fled the scene in an SUV. In addition to stealing the purse itself, she made off with the bag's contents, which included several credit cards, a gold chain, cash, the victim's iPhone, and other personal effects. Parisis was charged with robbery. She allegedly confessed to the robbery during questioning, saying that she committed the crime because she was struggling financially. According to the repair shop manager, the young woman had shown up at the business expressing an interest in used tires. The manager told Parisis that the store only sold new tires, but suggested parking her car and coming back inside. Instead, Paresis allegedly said, "No, that's okay," then robbed the victim as she was walking back to her vehicle. She claimed she threw the purse into a dumpster, but refused to specify exactly where. Number 17. Briella Johnson and Kelly Larkey. As the Christmas holiday approached in 2018, a surveillance camera captured footage of two women stealing packages off a homeowner's porch in Riverview, Florida. In the video, the thieves could be heard expressing their excitement about obtaining kid stuff and children's books as they swiped 5 boxes off the front steps of the home. Before making off with the packages, one of the women knocked on the front door to see if anyone was home. The victim, Noel Jotham Rivera, posted the footage online in hopes that someone would be able to identify the suspects. He said he would have bought the women Christmas gifts for their families if they had simply asked. In fact, he would have even bought them more items than they stole off his porch. But the thieves were not necessarily needy, according to police, who suspected the pair of being part of a larger, organized theft ring. Not only were the packages taken just minutes after they were delivered, indicating a degree of preciseness and planning, other victims began to come forward, claiming that the same suspects had stolen their deliveries. A few days later, authorities announced the arrest of 20-year-old Briella Johnson on suspicion of grand theft and petty theft. At the time, law enforcement was in the process of obtaining a warrant for the arrest of the second suspect, 38-year-old Kelly Larkey. In the meantime, Rivera's faith in humanity was restored through the kindness of community members who dropped off replacement packages at his home. Number 16. Michael Pratt. When 27-year-old Michael Pratt asked his 35-year-old date Sarah Bush for the keys to her rental car during a movie in December 2011, Bush had no reason not to believe that Pratt wanted to retrieve something from her vehicle like he claimed, but he never returned to the theater. And when Bush called him, he allegedly picked up the phone, said he stole her car, laughed and hung up. At the time, Pratt and Bush had been dating for about 2 weeks. Bush spent several days trying to get the car back before Pratt told her that he had abandoned it in a Walmart parking lot. When confronted by police, Pratt reportedly admitted to stealing the vehicle. By then, he had already served 2 prison stints for grand theft and fraud charges, and he also had a prior charge for failing to return a rental vehicle just 2 months before he stole Bush's rental car. According to state records, Pratt was convicted of grand theft for a 3rd time and served a 1.5 years in prison. Number 15. Thief helps herself to charity funds. Employees at a bakery in Melbourne, Australia, were devastated to discover that someone had cleaned out their charity tin in May of 2017. The container had collected hundreds of dollars as part of the business's fundraising efforts for a local children's hospital, and every last cent of it was gone. Surveillance footage showed a woman cramming the jar into her purse in broad daylight on a Saturday morning. The first person to notice the jar's absence didn't realize it was missing until 2 days later. Owner Delesco Scarfone told reporters that she initially assumed an employee had simply moved the container to another location. It wasn't until she actually looked for it that she realized it was nowhere in the building. She estimated that there was as much as $500 in the tin. Scarfone expressed shock and dismay at the thought that someone could knowingly steal money that was meant for sick patients. She said that the staff had never seen the woman in the surveillance footage before. At Scarfone's urging, her daughter posted the footage to social media, along with a plea to the public for help identifying the suspect. A few days later, police arrested a 41-year-old woman at a shopping center in connection with the crime. Number 14. Pennsylvania porch pirate snatches iPhones in broad daylight. A thief in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, took porch piracy to a whole new level in May of 2024 when they rushed up to a homeowner and snatched a package right out of his hand. Doorbell camera footage show the suspect running past an Amazon delivery driver and taking the parcel, which contained 6 iPhones and was valued at several $1,000s. It happened so fast that the victim, identified in news reports by the first name Henry, barely had time to even react before the thief had fled the scene. In fact, he was still bent over from picking the package up off the ground when it was ripped from his grasp. In the video, the suspect could be seen fleeing the property in a waiting tan four-door sedan with tinted windows. Henry told ABC6 that he noticed the car driving past his house moments before the robbery, adding to the growing list of reasons why he believes he was targeted. The value of the package also led him to suspect that the thief had somehow picked him out ahead of time. To make the situation even more bizarre and disturbing, Henry claimed that he received a phone call shortly after the robbery from someone asking him to return the 6 iPhones. When he explained to the mysterious caller what had just happened, the person hung up. According to the most recent available updates on the case, the porch pirate remains at large. Number 13. Brazen British porch pirates target iPhone customer. In September 2023, a pair of masked and hooded thieves were seen stealing packages out of a DPD shipping van in East London and shoving them into their own vehicle. The suspects ignored bystanders' pleas to stop taking parcels that clearly did not belong to them as they methodically piled the ill-gotten items into the trunk of their Mini Cooper. Meanwhile, the driver looked on helplessly, seemingly unsure of how to react to the situation. Footage captured by an onlooker showed the thieves taking at least 9 packages before fleeing the scene. Based on the video and the timing of the crime, social media users speculated that the men were targeting shipments of brand new iPhone 15s which had just been released for public sale days earlier. Updates on the case have not been forthcoming, indicating that the thieves likely remain at large. Number 12. Alberto Daniel Cruz Hernandez. On the evening of Black Friday in November of 2022, a shameless handbag thief was seen dragging an estimated $5,000 worth of purses, shoes, and other merchandise out of a Burlington coat factory store in Hialeah, Florida. Surveillance cameras captured a clear image of the man's face and his distinctive tattoos, yet he managed to elude the authorities for more than 2 weeks, even as the viral footage made the rounds on social media. Based on the video, it appeared as though no employees or bystanders tried to stop the robbery from taking place, even as the weight of the merchandise caused some of the bags to break and slowed the suspect down considerably as he made his way out of the door. Finally, in mid-December, police announced the arrest of the accused thief, 31-year-old Alberto Daniel Cruz Hernandez, on suspicion of grand theft. The current status of the case and whether the suspect was working with any accomplices are unclear. Number 11. Texas woman steals giant skeleton. Less than 2 weeks before Halloween in 2022, a woman stole a 12 to 14 foot tall skeleton from a stranger's yard in Austin, Texas. Security footage showed the suspect snatching the large decoration in broad daylight during the late afternoon on a Saturday. She could be seen disassembling the skeleton and placing it in the trunk of a white SUV before driving off. The victim shared the footage on social media in hopes that someone would be able to help identify the suspect. Homeowners Association President Grazia Ruskin helped put the word out for the victim, who did not want to be publicly identified. A $50 reward was offered, but it appears as though the thief was never caught. Number 10. Tyrone Frazier. A serial cigarette thief targeted the same 7-Eleven store in Stockton, California, not once, not twice, but 3 times over a 2-day period in July of 2023. During one attempted robbery, the store's employees beat the suspect before he fled the scene. Footage of the botched theft in progress showed the robber stuffing packs of cigarettes into a bag and threatening to shoot staff members while reaching into his back pocket. One worker tackled the man to the ground while another struck him repeatedly with a broom handle. In the video, the thief could be heard yelling, "Okay, I'm done." The robber fled the scene before police arrived at the store, but he crossed paths with law enforcement later that night when officers responded to a report about a man complaining of leg pain and saying that he was beaten with a stick. Unaware of the attempted robbery at 7-Eleven, the officers declined to arrest the man, who was later identified as 42-year-old Tyrone Frazier. Police linked Frazier to the 7-Eleven incident after the footage went spiral, and the suspect was finally arrested after encountering officers who were investigating an unrelated vandalism complaint. Frazier was charged with 6 crimes in connection with 3 separate robberies and the vandalism incident. 4 months after his arrest, he pleaded guilty to second-degree robbery. He was initially sentenced to 3 years in prison, but the term was doubled after authorities discovered that he had a previous strike on his record. Some viewers criticized the 7-Eleven workers for what seemed like an exceptionally harsh beatdown. The employees defended their actions, stating that they were reacting after being targeted for 2 days straight. The footage also prompted an investigation into the workers' actions, but they were ultimately cleared of any wrongdoing. Number 9. Reese Mansell. Over an 8-month period started in 2023, a British serial shoplifter committed at least 71 thefts at numerous stores, including co-op and one-stop stores throughout Dorset, England. According to police, 37-year-old Reese Mansell stole a broad range of items to support his drug habit, including alcohol, food, and household items. He became known for nonchalantly walking into a store and filling a bag with merchandise, seemingly unafraid of being caught. Mansell allegedly operated at all times of the day, sometimes working alone while also occasionally stealing with help from co-conspirators. Employees tried to stop the thieves from making off with the stolen goods on at least one occasion, but Mansell managed to flee the scene with the items. In addition to the shoplifting cases, he was accused of burglarizing an adult store in the middle of the night. When Mansell was finally caught, he claimed that his co-defendant, Raymond Cummins, was blackmailing him over a drug debt. The vast majority of the more than $16,000 in stolen goods were never recovered. In court, Mansell's defense attorney blamed her client's behavior on a bad breakup, resulted in the loss of his access to his stepchildren and the connections he formed with unpalatable individuals while moving around from place to place during a period of housing instability. In 2024, Mansell admitted to 75 offenses spanning 53 criminal cases, nearly all of which were related to shoplifting. The judge sentenced him to 3 years in prison despite his attorney's pleas for leniency and banned him from going into the stores he stole from until 2028. Number 8. Employees fired for taking action when a trio of masked thieves robbed a Lululemon store in Atlanta, Georgia in May of 2023. Employees Jennifer Ferguson and Rachel Rogers tried to stop the criminals by yelling "No!" and "Get out!" while a third staff member filmed the theft in progress. The suspects nevertheless made off with $7,000 worth of merchandise, even returning to the store to steal more items after stealing their first haul. When the suspects left the store the second time, Ferguson and Rogers followed them in an attempt to obtain their license plate numbers. The women didn't physically confront the robbers, and they called the police. Law enforcement tracked down and arrested the 3 suspects who had allegedly targeted the store multiple times in the past. Despite their cautious approach to the situation, Ferguson and Rogers were fired for their efforts to stop the robbery and to obtain information that would help identify the thieves. The women told local station 11 Alive that they didn't know they were violating company policy, and many people were outraged to learn that they had lost their jobs for doing what seemed like the right thing. Ferguson said that Lululemon employees are expected not to interact with or block thieves, and that once a robbery is over, workers scan a QR code and consider it a closed matter. She claimed that staff members are not supposed to mention the robbery in any notes, call the police, or even talk about it. Lululemon CEO Calvin McDonald told CNBC that the policy is based on the company's belief that a concern over stolen merchandise should come secondary to the safety of employees. McDonald claimed that the company responds to thefts by relying on a store's technology and collaborating with law enforcement. A lot of people were outraged that Ferguson and Rogers were fired, and many have called on Lululemon to give the women their jobs back. But McDonald stood by the decision to terminate the women's employment, and he doesn't seem to have any plans to consider otherwise. Number 7. Shaka Schnell Smith. In March of 2023, police in Coral Springs, Florida, responded to a shoplifting complaint at a local Target store. Employees told officers that a woman had stolen merchandise and was no longer on the premises. Later identified as 35-year-old Shaka Schnell Smith, the suspect was accused of exiting the store with 4 KitchenAid mixers valued at more than $1,600. She allegedly took the appliances without trying to pay for them and admitted during questioning that she intentionally stole the mixers. Smith was booked into the Broward County Jail on a grand theft charge. State records show that she's serving a 5-year probation sentence for 2 counts of grand theft stemming from cases in 2023 and a 3rd grand theft conviction relating to an incident that occurred in November of 2022. Number 6. Jean Lugo Romero. In June of 2021, footage of a thief riding a bicycle through a San Francisco Walgreens went viral on social media. In the video, the suspect could be seen loading items into a garbage bag before getting on the bike and pedaling off. Instead of trying to stop the theft in progress, a security guard stood by and recorded the crime with his phone. The guard could be seen making a half-hearted grab at the thief's bag of stolen goods as he sped past, but his efforts started and ended there. Many social media commenters criticized the guard for failing to spring into action, while others pointed out that having video evidence would probably make it much easier to identify, arrest, and convict the culprit. The footage did lead to the identification of the thief as 40-year-old Jean Lugo Romero, who was suspected in a number of other recent organized retail thefts in the area, including a CVS robbery that yielded over $1,000 in stolen merchandise. In 2022, Romero pleaded guilty to felony grand theft and misdemeanor petty theft. He was sentenced to 16 months in prison, followed by a year of probation, and was banned from entering 3 of the retail stores he was accused of robbing. The judge also banned him from having any contact with 2 Walgreens employees. Number 5. Ricky Tinsley. 40-year-old Ricky Tinsley had been busted for shoplifting on at least 5 separate occasions when he was caught for a 6th time on a Saturday afternoon in February 2024. According to police, Tinsley walked straight into a police officer while exiting a store in Nottinghamshire, England, with his arms full of stolen merchandise. Security footage from the store show the officer escorting the accused thief back into the building after he tried to make a run for it. At the time, Tinsley was wanted for failing to appear in court for other ongoing shoplifting cases. He ultimately pleaded guilty to 7 counts of theft and 1 count of failing to surrender to custody and received a suspended prison sentence which spared him from any time behind bars as long as he obeyed certain rules that were put forth by the court for a year. Tinsley was ordered to complete 6 months of drug rehabilitation and was banned from entering the stores he robbed between 9 p.m. and 9 a.m. until 2025. He was also subjected to a 1-year community order for frequent antisocial behavior. Number 4. Melissa Solomon. In December of 2021, a husband and wife in Avon, Indiana, caught a woman attempted to steal a package that had been delivered at their doorstep just minutes earlier. Amy Corsi and her husband Ronnie noticed the suspect's unfamiliar pickup truck parked in front of their home as they pulled in the driveway. They knew that nobody had any reason to be at their house, let alone a stranger, so they immediately became suspicious. Their suspicions were further heightened when they noticed a package in the woman's hand. The Corsis confronted the accused thief, later identified as 41-year-old Melissa Solomon. She handed over the package, but instead of engaging in any sort of civilized conversation, she allegedly fled the scene by driving her truck through the lawn because her vehicle was blocked in the driveway by the couple's car. Luckily for Amy and Ronnie, their home surveillance camera captured footage of the suspect. They turned the video over to the police, who identified Solomon as the woman in the video and arrested her on suspicion of theft and criminal mischief. State records show that she pleaded guilty to a felony charge of theft with a prior theft conviction and was sentenced to 180 days in jail. The judge also ordered Solomon to pay the victims $475 in restitution. Number 3. Postal worker robbed at gunpoint. A typical day at work took a terrifying turn for a 63-year-old U.S. postal carrier as she delivered mail in Dublin, California. In May of 2024, surveillance footage showed a pair of masked assailants approaching the delivery woman from behind and robbing her at gunpoint in broad daylight. The victim later told Fox 2 that the suspects demanded her cell phone and the keys to her mail truck. They ran off with the stolen items along with several mailbox keys while the mail carrier rushed to a neighbor's house and dialed 911. It was the first time anything like this had happened in her 33-year career with the Postal Service, and she was so traumatized that she began seeing a therapist and was unsure if she would be able to return to her job. The suspects appear to still be at large, and law enforcement has appealed to the public for help identifying the accused attackers. Today's topic was requested by Kissing Blaze 9. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comment section below. Number 2. Ashley Curry. Most accused thieves try their best to be inconspicuous, but 27-year-old Ashley Curry of Pine Bluff, Arkansas was certainly an exception to the rule. The young woman made news headlines in October of 2018 after she was allegedly caught trying to steal a package of flonase from a Walmart store while wearing a cow costume, and it wasn't on Halloween. According to an arrest report, Curry was dressed as a black and white Holstein cow, complete with 4 pink udders in her lower abdomen area. She was accused of stashing the flonase into her coat pocket before exiting the store, at which point she was met by a police officer and a loss prevention employee. As Curry and a male companion were being escorted to an office in the back of the store, Curry allegedly became combative toward the officer, William Wigand. According to police, she tried ducking into a bathroom and removing the flonase from her pocket, but Wigand managed to stop her by grabbing onto her costume. In an arrest report, Wigand wrote that Curry stuck her stomach out and told him that he could suck a pink cow udder. When she overheard him requesting a female officer to conduct a pat-down, Curry was booked into the Jefferson County Jail on suspicion of shoplifting and resisting arrest, and updates on the case have not been forthcoming since. If you haven't had your true crime fill for today with these stories about thievery, then stay tuned till after number 1, because we've got When Cute Criminals Go Wrong lined up for you. Number 1. Delaney Garcia Lopez. In January of 2024, a young woman was captured on video stealing dozens of Stanley brand drinking cups from a Dick's Sporting Goods store in Roseville, California. In the footage, she could be seen pushing the shopping cart full of 65 tumblers, which were collectively valued at around $2,500. Police arrested the suspect, 23-year-old Delaney Garcia Lopez, during a traffic stop. She was charged with felony grand theft and 2 misdemeanor counts of driving under the influence of alcohol. Garcia Lopez was booked into the Placer County Jail in lieu of a $150,000 bail. The judge also imposed a requirement for the accused thief to wear a GPS ankle monitor if she managed to come up with the money to secure her freedom. She pleaded not guilty to the charge and was still in custody when the story broke. Jubilee Sharp, an alumnus from the show The Bachelor, was arrested on suspicion of DUI in Palm City, Florida, on the morning of February the 16th of 2020. The 28-year-old had gotten into a one-car accident with her sedan. When law enforcement officers arrived, she was still in her car. The woman had bloodshot eyes, slurred speech, and was smelling of alcohol. She refused to take a breathalyzer test, but agreed to take a field sobriety test, which she failed. Sharp admitted to the officers that hours earlier she had a couple of drinks and told them she had no idea how the accident took place. She was taken into custody and booked into the county jail shortly after 6:30 a.m. She remained there for almost 6 hours before she was released on her own recognizance. The DUI charge was later dropped after she pleaded guilty to reckless driving, causing injury to property, and willfully refusing to sign a citation. In the end, Sharp was sentenced to 12 months of probation and was required to complete 75 hours of community service. She was also ordered to take a DUI education course and pay a list of fines. As part of her plea deal, her vehicle would be fitted with an ignition interlock device which would prevent her from being able to start her car if she'd been drinking. Number 10. Alexandria Vera. 25-year-old Texas woman Alexandria Vera had her career as a teacher destroyed after she slept with her 8th grade student at Stovall Middle School in Houston. The incident unfolded in the summer of 2015 when Vera met the young teen during a summer school session at the institution. In October of that year, she began having an intimate relationship with the student and started visiting him at home even, where she was introduced to the boy's parents. The parents knew about the relationship and were accepting of it. At some point, the boy and his father even moved into her home to give the appearance that the boy's father was her boyfriend. In January of 2016, the woman got pregnant with the boy's child, but had it aborted a month later after Child Protective Services showed up at school to discuss her relationship with the boy. 3 months later, she was charged with continuous assault on a child. Vera consequently turned herself into authorities and was held behind bars on a $100,000 bond. She later pleaded guilty to aggravated assault of a child and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Number 9. Lorena Tavera. On August the 5th of 2011, Miss El Paso 2008, Lorena Tavera, was accused of stealing a $69 shirt from a Dillard's store at Sunland Park Mall in El Paso, Texas. A store worker noticed the 21-year-old taking a shirt and hiding it in a plastic shopping bag before leaving the store. Employees called law enforcement and then followed Tavera outside the business to stop her from fleeing. Responding officers arrested Tavera on a theft charge and booked her into the El Paso County Jail. She was released after posting a $300 bond. 7 months later, Tavera pleaded guilty to theft and was sentenced to 9 months of probation. She was ordered to abide by a 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew, render 80 hours of community service, and undergo regular alcohol and drug testing. Number 8. Jonathan Cahill. What's his crime, breaking hearts or houses? Asked one person in response to West Yorkshire Police's appeal to find wanted Englishman Jonathan Cahill. The fugitive had been found guilty of burglary and sentenced to 8 years behind bars in mid-2015. He was released on license in September of 2021. 4 months later, authorities sought the help of the public in finding Cahill after he had breached his bail conditions. When police released his mugshot, thousands of people shared the picture online, with many describing him as a fit felon. One social media user commented on the photo saying, "He can hide under my bed," while another posted, "If I find him, can I keep him?" A few days later, news of the 37-year-old's arrest was shared online, causing his admirers to post more comments on social media such as, "Shall we book a visit?" and "I wouldn't mind being locked up with him." Ultimately, Cahill pleaded guilty to a number of crimes and was handed a 21-month jail sentence on May the 12th of 2022. Number 7. Mary Catherine Hunt. After 29-year-old Mary Catherine Hunt claimed that her ex-fiancé was violent toward her, surveillance footage revealed that her injuries were instead self-inflicted. Hunt and Florida businessman Scott Patrick Mitchell had gotten engaged in November of 2014 and was set to marry in August of the subsequent year. However, Mitchell broke off his engagement to Hunt and called off their wedding 2 months before the set date. On August the 19th, he was phoned by Hunt's father, who told him that United Parcel Service had delivered a box of gold, diamonds, and silver to his home in Hayes, Virginia. At that point, the millionaire checked his vault and realized his gold and jewels were missing. He accused Hunt of taking 99 3-diamond necklaces, 147 gold rings, and 172 loose diamonds, all of which combined he claimed to be worth $2.1 million at the time. Mitchell managed to find surveillance footage showing Hunt and her mother mailing a package at a UPS store 8 days earlier. He turned it over to investigators and told them his jewelry was missing and that only he and his ex-fiancée knew the combination to the safe. Mitchell subsequently sued Hunt and her parents, seeking $6.1 million for what was stolen and for damages. In turn, Hunt claimed that Mitchell gave her black eyes and bruises before he broke off their wedding. However, A surveillance video later released by Mitchell showed the woman striking herself in the face and head. In June of 2016, the United States Attorney's Office declined to prosecute Hunt on the charge in federal court, and 4 months later, the state attorney's office also dropped all charges against her. We couldn't find what the outcome of the civil suit was. Number 6. Sean Corey. The mugshot of a suspect who was accused of assaulting a man at the annual Halloween parade in downtown Santa Cruz, California, attracted attention online. The incident unfolded on the night of October the 31st of 2014, when Sean Corey confronted a man dressed as a Fox News reporter. The 29-year-old told him, "I hate Fox News," before grabbing the man's microphone and stuffing it down his pants. Corey, who was dressed as a tennis player and carrying a tennis racket, then attacked his victim with his racket. The victim, who wasn't seriously injured, went to the police and reported what had happened. Corey was subsequently arrested and booked into the county jail on a charge of assault with a deadly weapon. According to the Daily Mirror, when Corey's mugshot was released, he gained a legion of fans. One of his admirers posted the mugshot online with the caption, "Hot mugshot." Number 5. Persephone Lesperance. On November the 13th of 2013, Persephone Lesperance, who was a runner-up in Maxim's hometown hottie competition that year, was arrested during a drug sweep in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, USA. The raid was part of a months-long investigation into heroin distribution in the Seacoast region. At the time, the 24-year-old, along with 8 other suspects, was charged with conspiracy to sell heroin and drug possession. The charges against Lesperance were suspended on the condition that she complete a rehabilitative community diversion program. However, before completing the program, she was reportedly arrested 3 more times in April, May, and June of 2014. The woman was respectively accused of trespassing in a public housing neighborhood, failing to pay a cab driver, and stealing from a store. In the end, she pleaded guilty to the charges in her first arrest and was handed a 12-month prison sentence, which would be followed by a year of probation. She must also render 80 hours of community service. Additionally, Lesperance was allowed to participate in a 3-month jailhouse rehab program. The completion of the program could suspend a portion of her jail sentence and exempt her from a $350 fine. She managed to turn her life around in a big way, and nowadays is the director of a recovery home in New Hampshire. Number 4. Shakaria Nicole Calhoun. In July of 2017, 19-year-old Shakaria Nicole Calhoun from Atlanta, Georgia, was caught using counterfeit credit cards to purchase multiple cellular phones from several stores in Alabama. The female suspect had used the name Ashley Smith and bought a handful of iPhone 7s from shops in Guntersville and Pell City. When she attempted to pull off the same scheme at a store in Gadsden, the staff there realized that she was trying to use a fake credit card. Law enforcement were called and responding officers arrested Calhoun and booked her into the Etowah County Detention Center. Her accomplice, 23-year-old Joey Eramosel Elebesunu from Jacksonville, Florida, was also taken into custody. The pair were charged with trafficking in stolen identities, fraudulent use of a credit card, second-degree receiving stolen property, and third-degree receiving stolen property. Subsequent information indicated that Calhoun was released on bond. Number 3. Kristen Johnson. A nurse who worked at the Upstate University Hospital in Syracuse, New York, was arrested after she was caught photographing the private parts of unconscious patients. Kristen Johnson used her phone to take a video of another nurse cleaning an incapacitated female patient's gastrointestinal blood clot on March the 2nd of 2014. The 26-year-old also photographed an incapacitated male patient's genitals on August the 4th of the same year. After a months-long investigation, she was arrested in May of 2015 and charged with 2 felony counts of second-degree unlawful surveillance and 1 misdemeanor count of second-degree disseminating unlawful surveillance. Johnson later pleaded guilty to the misdemeanor count and had the felony charge against her dropped as part of her plea. Additionally, she was required to give up her nursing license and spend 3 years on probation. Number 2. Haley Way. 28-year-old Texas woman Haley Way, who was a teacher at Westlake High School in Austin, was facing charges after being involved in an intimate relationship with 2 male students. Way started teaching at the institution in August of 2013 and had gotten to know the 2 teens through ministry events. One of the victims claimed that he and the woman shared a kiss at a ministry event held in the summer of 2015. In August of that year, Way texted the boy to come over to her home, where they became intimate. After that, Way would even send him nude and suggestive photos. The pair would have several more steamy encounters until September of 2015. Their relationship ended after the teen learned that the teacher was also being intimate with another student she had met at another summer event. The second student didn't know Way was a teacher until he saw her at Westlake High School. Rumors of the teacher's tryst with the students began to circulate around the school. A female student who'd seen the explicit exchanges between Way and the victims alerted school administrators in October of 2015. Consequently, the Travis County Sheriff's Office was notified and began their investigation. The second victim told investigators that he and Way had done the deed in a hammock at Commons Ford Park. After learning that the victims had spoken to authorities, Way resigned from her job. She was arrested on December the 18th and held behind bars on a $150,000 bond. She was facing 2 counts of having an improper relationship between an educator and a student. 2 days later, Way was released on her own personal recognizance and voluntarily surrendered her teacher's certification. On March the 10th of 2017, she was sentenced to 10 years of probation after she pleaded guilty to the charges. As part of her penalty, she was required to serve 200 hours of community service. Way wasn't ordered to register as an offender, and her case would be completely dismissed and expunged from her record after completing her probation. Number 1. Christopher Wetmore and Joseph DeNormandy, a pair of male model roommates, were arrested after allegedly participating in a lucrative cocaine delivery service from a Gramercy Park apartment in Manhattan, New York. 25-year-old Christopher Wetmore and 20-year-old Joseph DeNormandy were arrested on the night of November the 20th of 2014 at the former's flat located on East 23rd Street. The pair were charged with felony charges of criminal sale of a controlled substance and conspiracy. In one of their alleged dealings, Wetmore and DeNormandy sold acid and $2,500 in drugs to an undercover police officer. Authorities believe that the 2 men were part of a bigger probe into a local drug delivery service. 2 co-conspirators, namely 17-year-old Julia Arcia and 27-year-old Richard Figueroa, were identified and were also facing charges. Arcia turned herself into the Manhattan District Attorney's Office a day after the models were arrested. Prosecutors said that Arcia had sold cocaine and $700 worth of LSD to another undercover officer. However, her attorney argued that she wasn't an active participant in the scheme. He claimed that Arcia was only present for the drug sales because of her boyfriend and co-defendant, Figueroa. All 4 defendants were held behind bars, with their bails ranging from $75,000 to $300,000. Arcia, who was the daughter of a former Brooklyn assistant district attorney, was subsequently released on bond. Wetmore was eventually sentenced to 90 days behind bars. During his sentencing, he was reprimanded by the judge as he attempted to hide from a photographer's camera in the public court. It was never reported what sentences his model roommate and the other 2 received. Thanks for watching. If you found a suitcase with $1 million cash in it, would you still turn it in if you somehow knew in advance that the rightful owner would not give you a penny Not even a thank you. Let us know in the comments section below.